We all have stories about money. Some are funny, some are embarrassing, others make us cringe, while others leave us empowered. Far too often, these stories are left unshared. Money is such a taboo subject, but quiet as it's kept, our experiences with money are more common than we think. When we share stories, we feel less alone in our experiences, and we discover new strategies for navigating life with money. I'm your host, Melissa Mazard. You're listening to Memories of Money, where our guests reveal their financial secrets and where you will learn practical lessons and principles for a life of financial health and prosperity. Our parents may want the best for us, but they can only teach us what they know. In this episode, our guest shares how navigating financial hardships pushed him to learn, unlearn, and ultimately redefine his relationship with money.
My earliest memory of money has to take me back to New York. I was born in New York, and both of my parents are from Jamaica. And I remember going to a toy store with my aunt and her getting me like the biggest bear that I'd ever seen before. It was almost bigger than me. At the time, I was like, oh, wow, I can't believe that we can get this toy, because we weren't buying a whole bunch of things when it came to going out or even going out to eat. And so I think that seeing that we got that bear, or that she bought that bear for me, I was like, oh, snap, like my auntie must be rich. I'm trying to get rich like my aunt. As I got older, I realized that you could just buy toys no matter how much money you had. And some people decided to spoil their nephews or nieces just like others. And I think I'm that uncle now. We moved from New York to South Carolina, more so because South Carolina was a nice place to raise kids, or at least that's what my mom's friend told her. We were living in the city at the time, and there's a lot going on in the city in the late 80s, early 90s. And so when her friend moved down to South Carolina and she was able to see all the land and like a house that could house all of us, I think she got excited. I can definitely acknowledge that there's been some trauma, like with a small T, when it comes to money, specifically around that move to South Carolina. My dad, he was an electrician, and in New York, he was making really good money. But when he moved to South Carolina, his pay got sliced by like 70%. No matter what the cost of living difference is, any income loss like that is going to change some things. I still remember living in a 3-bedroom house. Sometimes it was 8 of us, sometimes 10 of us, depending on who was here from Jamaica living in the house. We did experience some hardships every now and then where the water would be disconnected or the lights would be off, or just different things that were challenges. I think a large part of it was because the income difference was so crazy. And just like any other Jamaican family, like, we're focused on the family. So if we can provide for everybody in the household, then that's what we're gonna focus on. My dad, like, he was a great electrician. He traveled, he was a journeyman, but the pay just wasn't hitting. And then as my mom started to work, her getting a pay raise from like $5.83 to like $6.13. 30-cent pay raise, and her and my dad having to figure out how to feed all these kids, because I'm one of 5, on the amount of money they were making in South Carolina. And so we didn't have McDonald's money all the time, unless it was like the Tuesday 29-cent hamburgers or 39-cent cheeseburger joints. And I know that as I got older, that led me to eating a lot of my money, because now I can decide like, oh, I'm going to spend money on food. It also gave me some money avoidant trait, because as we did experience some of these challenges, we generally didn't talk about money unless it was talking about like, hey, I don't have money to do that specific thing. I remember my siblings, there were some times that we would decide who was going to go on the field trip that year because we didn't have enough money to send all the kids to wherever we were going. My first job was at Outback Steakhouse. I can still remember the same day that I got my first job is the same day I got my license. I was excited because I could contribute not only to my household, but I could also buy some things that I wanted. I was excited to work. That Jamaican spirit is in me, you know. When I started working at Outback, I was a busboy making $2.13 plus tips. A little bit later, I started working in the back of the house, to the point where I was working like 32 hours a week just so I get the money that I wanted while I was in high school. It's still wild to me how much money I made. It's just ridiculous. $2.13 is a very, very ignorantly low amount of money. But I was excited to just go out and start making some money. And that was my first like job. But even in middle school, I was one of the people who had like a candy business. I had 2 book bags on me at all times. I had my book bag with my books and then my book bag with my candy. And I had a price list on there. I had 2 friends that worked for me. Like, we was really building big business. Like, we was making some good money. I knew that people were looking for things that weren't in the vending machine. There was a day that I had these Jolly Rancher lollipops that used to go crazy. And somebody was like, "Yo, I'll give you 50 cents for this." I was like, "For real?" It's like, "Yeah, like right now." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so, like later on, I was like, "Oh, well, maybe other people will buy these lollipops." At first, like, I made the mistake of selling things for change. So like 50 cents, 25 cents. That wasn't the way to do it, because that means I had to carry change. And so then I started selling like 2 for $1 or 3 for $1 when it came to some of these pieces of candy. Once I started making some money, I was like, "Oh, I can really do this." Like, I remember like paying my mom gas money to go and re-up my candy. When I got to college, I made every money misstep possible. Like, I had 7 maxed out credit cards, overdraft fees to the point they closed all of my bank accounts, repossessions, plural. I got evicted from my apartment. My credit score was at 385 at one point. I don't blame my parents for this, because they taught us what they could. When I got to college, I just didn't really know how best to manage money when things got challenging. You want to go out every weekend, or you got different things that pop up. And I had like the worst luck with cars in college. I remember having a car that I was paying a car payment on. And for 2 years, I paid the payment, but it was only operable for like a year. When you kicking out money every month to a car that don't even work, and you trying to get it repaired, and you trying to pay people gas money to take you different places, it's a wild situation. So I think that me, like a lot of other people, like, you don't come out the gate trying to mess up with money. You're trying to get it right. But circumstances pop up on you. If you don't have some resources in order, then sometimes things kind of get off the rails, even if you do have good intentions. I pledge, I'm a Q, and being around the bros, these are some super enterprising people. Like, I still remember my DP, he's one of my best friends now, and I still remember him throwing parties like 45 minutes away from campus, and he was making money, and he had his own production company, and he started managing a group of artists. And you saw the people around me, they may not have had a lot of money, or they just didn't come from a lot of money, but they was going to get it. And I think being around those type of people, even when you're making the missteps with money, it gives you the opportunity to see somebody just keep trying and trying and trying to figure it out. And so I kept doing the same thing. I think the influences were positive, and some of the money situations were challenging. I'm okay with how it all turned out. It just didn't feel the greatest in the situation. So my worst financial mistake, it was November 17th, 2011. I remember it distinctly because it was Centennial. It was like when the fraternity turned 100. I had went out, I was drinking. I got pulled over for a DUI. And it wasn't even that I was drunk, but I had been up for like 24 hours, because I went out right after work. I'd get up at 6 in the morning. We out until 4 in the morning. And so I was falling asleep on the road, and the cop pulled me over, and I didn't get charged with a DUI. That's what I got arrested for. It ended up being reduced because I had never been arrested before. It ended up being reduced to like a moving violation. But I ended up losing my job. So I had a full-time gig where I had my own truck, had a gas card. I was in sales, and so I was moving around. And because I had the DUI, my license got suspended. I ended up getting fired. I lost at least 10 G's in fees and just different things I had to pay and time that I lost. And then even getting fired from the job, it was in a time where I was really ramping up. My book of business was starting to cook. And so I know that was like one of my biggest financial mistakes for sure. This is 2011, so like Lyft and Uber wasn't really popping like that back then. But I did make a decision like, oh, I'm not going to drink and drive. The biggest thing that I learned from that experience is don't let things mess with your money. Me drinking and having a good time, it's not a problem, right? But me drinking and driving and doing all the things that I know I shouldn't be doing is wilding. I could have just called a friend or slept it off. There's mad decisions or options now. Hindsight's 2020. When I think back on it, I don't put myself in the position to make bad decisions like I did before. I have more clarity, and I don't even drink no more. Because I also realized after I got arrested for the DUI, it was like, I don't even like alcohol, y'all. I'm drinking because everybody else is drinking and going out and having a good time. And it was cool. It was cool. But I think about those decisions a young Steven was making and how it kind of laid the groundwork for me to do the things that I'm doing now. Getting a DUI and the financial situation they were in after that, or even like losing the job, that's just not something my circle was talking about. And so at the time, I was very shameful about it. I wouldn't even tell my friends at the time, like, oh, I got fired. It was like, yo, I'm just going to make sure that I have a good time this weekend. because the week before I got fired, my car got repossessed. And then the next week I got fired. And then the day after I got fired was my birthday. I'd already planned on having this big party and celebrating. And so I just ended up doing it anyway. Like, okay, well, there's nothing I can do at this point. But I was too shameful, or I felt so much shame around it that I didn't want to tell people that, hey, I lost my job because of this that happened. Even my parents, because I had also, a year before that happened, I dropped out of school. And so Jamaican parents, like, come on now. They didn't come to this country for all these things to happen. And so I definitely felt shame because I also knew that that was part of the story. Like, oh, my mom and my dad, who didn't go to this 4-year school or pushing to get this business degree or anything else like that, they wanted to lay the foundation for these opportunities for me. And I'm missing them. But I look back at those experiences and think about how much they set me up for the things that I'm doing now, because even the shame and guilt that I felt around money, I specifically help my clients with that because I know how they felt. I know how they feel. I know how they found or what I found. A lot of people don't talk about the shame, the guilt, the fear that people feel around money. A lot of financial professionals, they like to stick to the basics, or they really focus on a niche. But now more than ever, more people need to unpack the thoughts and emotions around money, because it doesn't really matter how much you make. If you have these feelings around money, that you're ashamed or you feel guilt, even if you feel survivor's remorse, like, oh, I made it out, that's not always a positive feeling either. It could be a two-edged sword where you feel like you made it out, but then you also may feel like you got to put the family on your back, the neighborhood on your back, the community on your back, because you got more money than your parents had ever seen. If those feelings go unchecked, then they can snowball into just poor financial decisions going down the road. If you don't address those feelings and thoughts that you have around money, even if I know I want to make more money and then I end up making more money, for a lot of my clients that I've worked with, they realize that they're back to the same place that they were at before financially, even though they're making 2, 3, 5 times more than they were making before. When you take a look back at it, it may not be the best feeling, because money is such an intimate thing and it touches every area of our life. And financial stress, it seeps into every area of our life. And so if you don't take a step back and can at least put your arms around it, it can get off the rails real quick. So the way that I navigate difficult financial situations, if it's like an unexpected expense that pops up on me, or a family member that needs money, one, I have a family fund, because I got to the point where, one, I didn't want to feel bad about telling a family member no. And then two, if they did borrow the money, I didn't want to feel like I had to keep hounding them to pay it back. And so at the beginning of each year, I put money into an account where if a family member asks me, hey, can I borrow some money? I just take it out of that account if I have it. And if they pay it back, excellent. It goes back into that account. But if they don't, then another family member that asks me for money, they'll only be able to access this amount of money, because I'm not replenishing it until the top of the year. And so it gives me the opportunity to not be the asshole or the bad guy to say like, oh, no, I'm not letting you hold no money. Or in even some cases, like some people, especially in the personal finance world, they'll put like fences around the money. Like, I'm going to let you get this money, but I want to sit down with you and do a budget. Dog, I'm not doing all that, because I know that you are in crisis, which is the reason why you asked me for money anyway. So I'm not going to put this thing on your plate. In the family realm, that's how I handle that. But unexpected things for myself or financial challenges for myself, usually I give myself like 24 hours to like cry, cuss, and carry on if I need to. And then it also gives me some time to think about the choices that I have, so I can make like some real decisions. And even if I don't know the answer right then, I start forming the questions of like, oh, if I wanted to solve this, and this is for challenges or opportunities, like if there's a big investment deal that comes across my desk, I'm like, dang, I want to invest in this, but my liquid money is tied up right now. How would I do it? How would I get the money? If it's like a huge expense for a family member, if a family member's in a bind and I do want to help them, whether the money's in the family fund or not, I can take a step back to say, okay, well, how can I help them without hindering myself in this financial situation or position? And it wasn't always like that. Oftentimes, if I had a shirt on my back and they needed one, I'd take it off. But now I'm cold and they may lose the shirt because they lost the first one. And so now I just want to make sure we all clothed. I want to make sure that we all got what we need at least, and we can kind of build from there. Now I'm better at generating income and even solving problems when it comes to money than I was when I was younger, because I just didn't have the financial or mental resources to even ask the questions of how this could be solved without me going into debt, or how could it be solved without the other person feeling bad or sad or fear or shame or guilt around even asking me for the money. I'm conscious of all those things now because I felt like that before. other areas of my life that have been impacted since I got on track with my money. The first thing that I can think about is my physical health, because when I was making those financial mistakes and I was drinking and doing all them other things, like I was large and in charge. From then till now, I've gotten rid of about 100 pounds and I've kept it off for the most part. Once I got my finances together, it gave me the opportunity to think about other things, because I wasn't just thinking about like, damn, how am I going to make it to next week? Or I'm living paycheck to paycheck. How am I going to pay this bill that just came in that I wasn't expecting? Like the thing that used to trip me up all the times was like taxes. The car taxes would come through in the middle of the year. Even though I know I got to pay them every year, I wasn't thinking about them because I was living paycheck to paycheck. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you're just trying to make sure that you pay for the roof over your head and make it to the next 2 weeks or the next month, it hits other areas of your life. And so I can just think about how much freedom I had to just think about other things, to focus on other things once I had my money straight. If I could give my younger self advice, one is action cures all. And sometimes that action is just research. Sometimes that action is asking a question to somebody who is close to you. Sometimes that action is grabbing a book or listening to a podcast like this, or just getting some information that you just didn't have before on your specific situation. Find an accountability partner, whether it's a friend, a family member, internet stranger that you connected with online, somebody you can talk to about what you got going on, and they'll talk to you about what they got going on, so that y'all can see objectively like, hey, this may be something that you missed, or I experienced this before. Let me tell you how I fixed it. In that situation, 1 + 1 = 11. Your parents and your family members are doing the best they can with what they have. Because when I was younger and I started learning about money for real, I was like, dang, I can't believe my parents ain't teach me about this. But when I started having conversations with them about the things that I was learning, they was like, oh, they were learning with me. They were learning about some of these investments with me. They were learning about different ways to build a business with me. I know that I look to them for guidance on many different things, but someone can only teach you what they know. So people can keep up with me. They can hit my website. It's StephenMHughes.com. STEVENM like money, HUGHES.com. And across the web, Instagram and LinkedIn at Stephen M. Hughes. Right now, I'm a financial therapist. I'm a Reiki master teacher, and I'm helping people unpack their emotions around money so they can live carefree responsibly and do the things they want to with money. And so I'll keep the party going.
Thank you, Stephen, for sharing your journey and for the work you do to support others through financial trauma. If you enjoyed this episode, please let us know with a like and review, and stay tuned for a special and the final episode of the season next month on May 11th.